This is the 7th video in my manager mini-series, a collection of short how-to guides to help you in a manager role to learn some of the really core and critical skills to get on. And actually this particular video is really relevant to that exact subject of getting on. We're going to talk about networking and climbing the ladder, that incredibly common phrase that's used throughout the corporate world, throughout the world of work, all about how do you continue to progress, be more successful, and ultimately earn more money. I think it's an aspiration many of us have. Hardly any of us work for free, but it's the question of, but how do you actually do it? And especially in terms of navigating the politics of climbing the ladder, because there are so many of them in whatever organisation you work for. So in this short video, I'm just going to give some ideas on my thoughts on how to get on. So much of getting on in work is about building relationships. But what I will say as a word of caution is it's not just about relationships. I've worked in too many organisations where individuals have spent way too much time looking up and trying to cultivate strong relationships with senior management to ensure that they're seen and known, without realising that it's not just about that. It's not just about you being able to talk the chat, schmooze. It's about actually what you're delivering along the way as well. And that requires looking both up and looking down. So that's a word of caution. It's important that you build relationships at all levels. You build relations up with your manager and your senior stakeholders. It's also important you continue to focus on building and cultivating relationships with your peer group, and most critically, if you manage people, those that you manage and lead. They and their success will lift you up. Never forget that. So let's talk a bit more about climbing the ladder. So it's important when you're thinking about your progression, you've got to think about, well, where do I want to go next? Who do I want to work with? And what do I want to do? And actually, are you clear about why in any of this? Once you're really clear about what you want to do next, really seek out the people who are connected to or who can influence what you want, whether that be a stakeholder who has a relationship that's important for you to have as well, or whether it's actually about you identifying the role you want next and being clear about who that line manager is for that role and working on building a relationship with them. Either way, there are many relationships in organisations. It's important to cultivate those that are going to be of most value to you and that actually are going to really support you. So really get to know that person. So get to know who they are, what's important to them, whether it be in work, out of work. Can you identify similar interests? Again, inside of work, outside of work. Can you be really clear about what they stand for, what they represent? Identify what values they have and actually how you can then ensure that you're fulfilling and working with those. But as I said, really get to know that person. And when I say get to know them, identify the best ways to do that. Can you approach them and organise a one-to-one? Does it feel appropriate to actually be really straightforward with them? I would encourage you to be so and be direct about the fact you want to work with them. But you've got to be clear about why you want to work with them and effectively what you stand for, what you offer. So that's probably my next thing to think about, which is what are your asks and what are your offers? What do you want from this individual? What do you want from the role that with them? What do you want to gain from working with them? But most importantly, counteract that with and what you're going to offer in return. They're going to want to know, well, what do you stand for? What do you bring? What are they going to get from working with you? So be clear about your skill set, your experience, your contribution. It's a two-way street always. Really demonstrate your skills and capability through what you're doing right now. I think sometimes people look so far in front that they forget about the here and now. And actually what you're delivering now is just as crucial. So any hiring manager is going to want to know, yes, what do I get from this person? But what substantiates that? Well, what substantiates that, the evidence, is actually what you're doing right now. So never forget about what your deliverables are currently, how you can demonstrate your worth and your value by what you're doing today. And really think about what you're going to deliver. You know, as I said at the start of this video, I think people think too far in advance about what's next, that they miss the here and now. I think they're also too busy looking up to think about what's happening below. And there's just too much chat, too much bullshit, essentially. You want to be able to demonstrate the value you're adding now. So deliver on that project now, deliver on your objectives now. Actually, that in a way is always going to be demonstrating what you're totally capable of and your potential. And I would be open-minded and flexible to grabbing any opportunity that is able to showcase that for yourself. And that really links to the audience you're wanting to work with. So have a think about those things. I hope that's useful to you. And if you want to learn more, visit my website, gripcoaching.co.uk. You can also drop me a message if any of what I'm talking about is of interest to you and you want to learn more about, well, how do I actually do this? You can access that through any of my coaching services. Again, contact details, you can find all of that on my website.